everyone. All right, so we're still in notes 8. We're on page 31, and I wanted to walk you through how to create vertex form using the completing the square. Okay. So we've been viewing the complete the square for a little bit, and I want to show you how to put it into vertex form. So if you remember, vertex form is y equals a times x minus h the whole thing squared plus k. And if you remember, h and k are your vertex, okay? So we're going to create this vertex form, and it's really important that you see this now because you're going to be doing it in Algebra 2 and in pre-calc. So, having me in a couple years, you are going to be expected to do this. So first things first, okay, just like completing the square, you need to check your A is equal to 1. Okay, so we need A equal to 1. If it's not, just like with completing the square, we're gonna do some factoring to make that go away. Okay, so we're not gonna divide it, we'll do some factoring. So I'll write that in here. So we don't really have any steps, and there's not really like actual steps where this is just the process. So for number 1, A is 1, so that's kind of nice. We really don't have to worry about anything, okay? So the second thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a plus and a minus box, okay? So follow along with me. So now we're going to do y equals, I'm going to do parentheses, x squared plus 16x plus box, close parentheses, plus 71 minus box, okay? And the reason it's plus and minus instead of just the two plus boxes is because it's on the same side, okay? So if we added a box over to y, it would be a plus. Okay, so our goal here is to create a perfect square trinomial using completing the square just like we learned. Okay, so now we're going to take our b. Okay, so we can add that to our little list. So we're going to do our b divided by 2, the whole thing squared. Okay, so now b divided by 2, so 16 divided by 2 is 8. We're going to square it, and we get 64. So we're going to plug that into both boxes. So this is 64, and this is 64. Okay, so just like completing the square. So now our highlighted trinomial that we have here, this highlighted portion, we can now factor it, and it's a perfect square trinomial, which means that I should have two binomials that I can write as 1. Okay, just like completing the square. So I should have an x, and I'm going to have plus 8 because we have that handy dandy little shortcut of plugging in whatever that is, squaring, and then we have our constants out here that we need to simplify. So 71 minus 64 is actually a positive 7. And now it is in vertex form, okay, just like we talked about at the top of the page. So we'll put step 4 is the factoring piece, okay, the perfect square trinomial piece. And then there's going to be a little bit more that we're going to have to do later in some of these problems. I'm going to add a distribute step that you're going to see in just a minute, and then a simplify. Okay, so we didn't have to do 5 and 6, we just did the factoring and then simplify. Okay, so I want to jump down to number 4. Okay, we're going to jump to number 4 because I want you to see all of the steps. So for 4, we have y equals 2x squared plus 36x plus 170. So here, a is not equal to 1. Okay, so before, when we did this with completing the square, we divided it out. We're not going to do that here. What we are going to do is we're going to say that 2 is our GCF, and we're going to create a GCF from our problem. So pulling out the 2, we get an x squared. 36 divided by 2 is 18, and 170 divided by 2 is 85. Okay, so we did our A. Our A is simplified. Our A is 1. We now have a GCF out front. We're going to, carry that with us. So now our next part is we're going to create our boxes. So follow with me. We're going to do a bracket, and we're going to do x squared plus 18x plus box, close parentheses, plus 85 minus our box, close bracket. Okay, so the reason we do brackets is because we need this trinomial to be in parentheses, and then we need the whole thing to also be in parentheses because we have this 2 out front. Okay, so you really need to understand how order of operations and parentheses and all the grouping stuff works, which is something you should know prior to doing this class. It should be a previous knowledge aspect. So here, at this point, we're going to take our B, okay, and we're going to divide it by 2, and we get 9. Square it, and we get 81. So now that is going to go in both of our boxes, both plus and minus. Okay, so this is the point where you can now create your perfect square trinomial. Okay, still with the bracket. We now have our parentheses, and it's going to be squared. So on the inside, again, we've talked about this a lot. Your shortcut is whatever's inside those parentheses before you square is what you put inside here. It's a nice shortcut to help you with the factoring. So I have an x plus 9 squared, and then I'm going to simplify the 85 minus 81, which happens to be a positive 4, which is really nice. So now we are almost done. This is that distribution step. So now we have to take care of this 2 that we took out, because this is not in vertex form yet, because vertex form doesn't have brackets. So now we're going to take 2 and we're going to distribute it inside to the front of the parentheses and the 4, because we have a term here and we have a term here. Okay, we do technically only have 2 terms inside, so both terms get the 2. So now we have y equals 2x plus 9 squared plus 8, because it's 4 times 2. You don't distribute the 2 inside the binomial, so you don't do 2x plus 18 squared. That is an absolute no-no. Order of operations says that you do parentheses, exponents, then your multiplication, okay, which means if we were doing anything with the binomial, we'd have to expand and FOIL first to take care of the parentheses and exponent, and then we could distribute the 2 in. So we cannot do anything with the 2 except for set it out front, which is exactly what we need, because now it looks identical to vertex form, ax or a times x minus h squared plus k. Our a at the beginning was 2. Our a at the end should also be 2. So that is our answer. Okay? So when we're putting in vertex form, you can do little things to check. We also can put this in our calculator. So if I go to my calculator and I type in my original function, 2x squared plus 36x plus 170, and then I go to my second line and I type in the one that I created, 2 times x plus 9 squared plus 8, I should now also get the same thing. So my window is not where it needs to be, so I'm going to fix it so I can kind of make my point. So we're going to scroll it over a little bit, and we're going to scroll up a little bit. So my point, blue, Then red, they are exactly the same function, so I did a good job. So let's say I forgot to multiply the 4, so this was just +4 instead of +8. You can see that I did something wrong because they should be identical. Okay, this red should be on top of the blue, which means I missed something and I need to go back and check my work. But because originally I multiplied the 4 by 2 like I was supposed to, these are exactly the same, which is what I want. Okay, so we're going to do more practice in class. As you saw, my battery is getting low. Joe would be disappointed that it is not fully charged. So we're going to do more of this together so you can ask questions. All right, have a good night.